There's quite a few racetracks in Sonic Racing Crossworlds, 26 total so far, so how about we rank all of them? That's right, in this video, I'll be ranking every track in Sonic Racing Crossworlds, even the 2 DLC tracks, and I might even do the Crossworlds as a part 2. But I'll be doing all the base games tracks first, going in Grand Prix order, and finally ending it with the DLC tracks. I'll be using this tier list, same as always, ranking from S to D, and of course, if you have any changes, feel free to comment them down below, or if you want to make your own tier list, I'll have this one linked down in the description. Anyways, make sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe for some more Sonic content, but let's get to ranking all the tracks in Sonic Racing Crossworlds. First up is E-Stadium, which is honestly one of the best introductory tracks in a racing game, in my opinion. The visuals, music, and gameplay here are all great, which is why I'm going to put it into the S tier. Despite this being the first track you play on in the game, there's quite a few skips and neat tricks you can pull off on this track. One of the most obvious ones is taking the warp ring on lap 3 towards the middle, super satisfying to hit that. But what's even more satisfying is cutting this grass section on lap 3, using the blue boost pad to get you over it without an item. There's no flying or water sections here, which is fine by me. Some people may even see that as a plus, but since it's fun to play, that's why I put this one into the S tier. Moving on, the next track is Rainbow Garden. This one is a lot less cool than it actually looks, unfortunately. It's pretty basic, still decent enough fun to drive on, but the whole middle of the track, starting with the flying section to when you're exiting the cave, is just kinda boring. Lap 3 at least changes things up a little bit by introducing a shortcut, but nothing ever really happens during this part of the race, at least in my experience. Sure, there's items sometimes, but most people either hold them for a while, or if you do get hit here, it's really not a big deal since the race isn't even close to being over yet. So you're mostly just driving through somehow a not super rainbow looking garden until the end. I'm gonna put this one in B tier because I don't mind playing it if it's chosen. Then comes Water Palace to wrap up the first Grand Prix tracks, and I think this one is pretty neat. Some people might not enjoy the water sections too much, but enjoying them is really all about how you control them. If you're constantly spamming level 1 tricks and holding the acceleration the entire time, you're not gonna have a good time with them. But if you slow down on the tight turns and save your boosts for the long straightaways, you can gain a ton of distance on your opponents in the water. Anyways, for Water Palace though, there's not too many shortcuts, really just the one at the end, and then I guess you can kinda consider the one on lap 3 a shortcut, maybe? It gives you a good item box, so if you get a good item, then it's definitely worth it. It does feel a tad bit too basic, but the visuals are cool and the music is good, so I'll put this one into the B tier. I have more fun with E-Stadium, but whenever I'm going to Water Palace, I know I'll usually have a good time. Now for the next Grand Prix tracks, starting off with Metal Harbor. Metal Harbor is a great track, although if you watched the short I posted where I ranked the tracks from the ONT, you'll know that this one was one of my absolute favorites, and I do have to say, I think it's kinda dampened on me just a little bit, but only slightly. I still think Metal Harbor is an A tier track. The optional routes you can take in the middle, plus the double skips at the end make this a really fun track to master. It was actually one of the more difficult S-rank time trials for me, and I definitely do love a challenge, so that was nice. I really like how the track changes on lap 3, where you can see the rocket blasting off, so that's why Metal Harbor is going into the A tier. Next up is Sand Road, another one that I had at the very top of my ONT ranking, although just like Metal Harbor, it's gone down for me, but unlike Metal Harbor, it's in the B tier now. The slipperiness of the sand did annoy me at first, but after you play the game for nearly 100 hours, you learn how to control yourself on it. There's quite a few good skips you can do on this track, and I really like how lap 3 is almost completely different in the middle if you choose to go to the water section that opens up. I think the main thing keeping Sand Road from the A tier for me is that this one really rewards bagging multiple OP items at the very end. I do like Sand Road, enough to put it into the B tier, but it's not as good as I once thought it was. Now for yet another S tier track, Colorful Mall, which actually moved up a tier from my ONT ranking, unlike Metal Harbor and Sand Road. I've come to really love Colorful Mall, since all the various pathways you can choose make the track super dynamic, and it's genuinely really fun finding out which one is the fastest for you to take. Some people might try to go all the way to the top, some people may stay towards the middle, and sometimes you might get knocked all the way down to the bottom, but the secret to Colorful Mall is that you honestly should be combining every route together. Dropping down from a higher level to a lower one, while cutting a corner and doing some air tricks, can be a pretty awesome shortcut, and this track lets you do that quite often. There's also a few other shortcuts, like the one where you smash through all these tables without even needing a boost, and you can also veer off to the side on the top path of lap 3 to get a good item box, which is technically longer to do, but if you need a good item, then it could be super beneficial. I also just really like how this track looks. The music is good too, not my absolute favorite, but this track is just too much fun to play on to not give it an S. Time for the third Grand Prix tracks, starting off with Mystic Jungle. This is such a fun track to play on, it genuinely might be one of my favorites, if only it was a bit longer. I guess they needed to keep that Forces energy and make this one of the shortest tracks in the game. Seriously, some Crossworlds are longer than this track, which sucks because Mystic Jungle is a lot of fun. The water slides let you do tricks and jump between them, the split path at the start is a cool shortcut, and that snake skip at the end is actually pretty tricky to hit. but it all ends too soon. It just needed one more section after the water slides, and it would have been perfect. However, the way it is now, I gotta put it into the A tier. It's a great track that's held back by how short it is. And now for the first D tier track, one that I still don't like, even though the monster trucks are mostly gone, Apatos. This one has the same problem as Mystic Jungle because it's just way too short, and half of it is a flying section anyways, where you're mostly just holding forward. The only interesting part is right after the hallway at the beginning, where you can take a few different paths, and even then they converge back pretty quickly once you get to the flying part. You've got one final big drift at the end, and that's it. Much like Mystic Jungle, it just feels like it's missing a section somewhere, but unlike Mystic Jungle, the rest of the track itself isn't all too great, so that's why I'm putting Apatos into the D tier. Next up is Wonder Museum, another track that I've grown to really enjoy the more I play it. I originally didn't like the final lap having so many obstacles come to life, but I actually think it's really cool now, and I also like how it opens up new shortcut opportunities. The only part I don't really like is at the very end, since there's usually a ton of items going out, and it's really easy to get hit and lose your lead on the long straightaway. I do actually have a bit of a vendetta against this track, a love-hate relationship you could say, because for whatever reason, this was by far the hardest time trial for me to S rank. I don't really know fully why, but most of the other time trials took me a couple of attempts to S rank, sometimes even just one, but Wonder Museum took me like 4 hours of attempts before I could finally get the S rank. It was certainly frustrating, but I feel like I've really mastered the track as a result, which made my victory all the more satisfying. There's also just a ton of really cool stuff all over this place. I mean, it is a museum, and the music is pretty good too, so I'm gonna put Wonder Museum into the S tier. It's a track that I've grown to enjoy racing on the more I play it, especially since I had to get so good at it, but it's probably my least favorite S tier of them all, if I had to pick. And for yet another Grand Prix, this time starting with Crystal Mine. I don't understand why, but I can never win a race on this track. I feel like I'm always getting hit right at the very end. And it's one that I honestly think has a lot of wasted potential, in my opinion. There's so many cool things that could have been done with a Crystal Mine aesthetic, yet I feel like there's so many missed opportunities of cool things they could have done here. All this track really has is a couple of drifts at the start, a flying section, a couple more drifts, and that's it. No super cool set pieces, the visuals aren't even that good for what I think they could have been, and like, aside from the machinery and stuff, where's the actual mine part here? This is more like a crystal quarry, which yeah is technically an open mine, but still, the name Crystal Mine makes it seem like we should be seeing more of that happening. It really sounds like I hate this track, but I do like that dump truck skip at the end, so at least that's something I guess. But otherwise, I wish this track just had more going for it. So I'm gonna put Mine in the D tier. Then there's Ocean View, a fan favorite returning track, which I really do not enjoy in Crossworlds. Seriously, why does this one always get picked whenever it's an option? It's gonna be Ocean View. I already know it. I knew it. I literally called it. You lose on this track every single time if you don't have a speed item at the very end for this shortcut. And the one thing I like about racing on Ocean View is hitting this narrow skip in the middle. Sure, the visuals look nice, and the music is incredible, I love the Lap 3 remix, but I just cannot stand playing on Ocean View anymore. It's like half of my races nowadays are just this one track. I'm throwing Ocean View into the D tier, and maybe if I wasn't sick of it then it'd be a C tier track, but I just really hate playing on this one all the time. But a track that I do love is Pumpkin Mansion. Man, this track is sick. The immediate split pathways, the driving upside down, the narrow bridge in the middle, the giant pumpkins revealing the correct pathway, and of course that invisible path on lap 3 are all just so dang good. I'm putting Pumpkin Mansion into the S tier just because of how fun it is to play, but it's also got some really cool visuals and great music. The aesthetic of combining Pumpkin Hill with Mystic Mansion and Hang Castle is a combination I'm surprised hasn't been done previously, because they just work super well together. I like that this track has some difficulty to it, and I really like how dynamic it feels, especially that lap 3, which is why this is one of my favorites in the entire game. And it's all driving too. No flying or water sections necessary, yet it still feels super engaging the whole way through. Another 3 tracks means another Grand Prix. This time we're starting with Urban Canyon, and wow, this track is carried hard by its visuals and music. The final lap music is one of my favorites in the entire game. It just sounds so happy. I love it. This is also the track that you sit at on the home screen of the game, so they knew they had to make it look good, and they definitely delivered. I'd take any one of these brand new stages to be used in a future Sonic game, but Urban Canyon is up there as one that I really want to see, because I think they could do a lot with it. The track itself is also pretty good, but just a tad bit too basic for my liking. You're going back and forth a lot, and on lap 3 you can cut over some rocks during the beginning sections, but besides that, I feel like this track just needed a little bit more going for it in terms of gameplay. The middle part lets you choose between a flying or driving section, which is nice, but I still feel like this track is heavily carried by the visuals and music, so I'm gonna put it into the A tier. I'll pick Urban Canyon over a lot of other tracks, but it just needed a little more for me to really love playing it all the time. Next up is Market Street, a track that I'm kinda disappointed with. I can't really explain why, but I just don't really vibe with this track all too much. It just feels too easy, but also like there isn't enough going on either. You have a couple split paths to take at the start and end, but the middle is just a big drift, and unlike Colorful Mall, you're pretty much just going the same way every time, so there isn't much of a reason to mix up your driving route. Lap 3 does introduce a cool warp ring shortcut, I do like that one, but then you're back to drifting and driving on these overhanging rooftops at the end. The visuals also just aren't really doing it here for me. Music is good though, but I think I'm gonna put Market Street into the B tier. I'll play on it for sure, but I'm probably gonna be bored doing so. Now it's time for a track that I once thought was peak, Coral Town. This track used to be in my top 3 because of that skip you can hit, but now that everyone knows about it, I can't gatekeep my 5-second lead as often anymore. Tragic. But there's so many different ways to go on this track, it's actually kind of insane that they even went this crazy with it. I'm sure everyone has their own preferred route, but there certainly is a fastest one. You just gotta make sure you're really consistent with it, otherwise you're gonna go splat. This place looks pretty nice, and the varying routes are all cool, which is why I'm putting it into the A tier. I once thought this one was my favorite, but missing that skip is so painful that I stopped trying to hit it every single time. You know the deal, new Grand Prix. This time we've got Blizzard Valley. A controversial track, at least I think so, but I definitely like it. I'm sure some people slide out on this one way too easily, but all you gotta do is just let go of the accelerator on the turns. Very simple, just go with the flow. Literally, the wind and ice on this track will take you exactly where you need to go, so don't fight against it, just slide along those curves as Sonic would, and you'll be mastering this track in no time. Aside from that though, the track itself is pretty good. The flying section at the end is kinda odd and short, but it works. And the music here is really good. I like when the music in this game gets the occasional vocal section. I'm gonna put Blizzard Valley into the A tier, because I think it's a bit too gimmicky for me to put it into the S tier, but I definitely still enjoy it nonetheless. Then there's Radical Highway. Decent track, pretty good visuals, and an awesome remix. This is one of the longest tracks in the game, but it still feels like it goes by pretty fast. I think most of the time spent just comes from going through the giant loops at the end. The bridge section is easily the highlight of this track, with some really high risk, high reward shortcuts you can try to pull off. Although sometimes they can be a bit buggy. I tend not to try and ride the edges of the bridge, but if you can make it work, it's really satisfying. A lot of this track is just going forward though, like the bridge is obviously a big straightaway, and you're ultimately just going forward during the giant loops at the end, so this isn't one of my favorite tracks, but it's still good. I'll put it into the B tier, because that final lap remix is great. Chow Park is a track that I'm kinda iffy on, because I do like small parts of it, but as a whole, it's just way too all over the place for me to truly enjoy. A lot of it feels pretty basic, mostly just going forward and drifting sometimes, but that one drift where you can fall off is really cool. I like hitting people off there when they're trying to take it at Mach speed, but then after that it's just more of the same, I guess. For a track themed after the Chow, and an amusement park no less, it just doesn't feel that memorable to me. I wish there was more Chow and park, but instead it's just a colored pathway with some occasional Chow imagery. I think the track tries to mimic a roller coaster, but you really don't feel it when playing it. And again, I want to see more Chow here. I want to see giant stuffed Chow on the track that you can barrel through for a shortcut, or just, like, anything. I'll put this track into the C tier, because I do like parts of it, but the visuals and most of the track just aren't anything special. Next Grand Prix, this time we got Dampa Factory. One of the best tracks in the entire game once you get it down. There's some really good shortcuts towards the end, some obstacles to dodge, and it's just a fun track to race on. The third lap is super dynamic too, because you can ride on the conveyor for a speed boost, although you gotta let go of the accelerator during turns or you'll fly into the wall. I really like Dampa Factory because it rewards good driving and just having good knowledge of the game and how it plays. It definitely takes some getting used to, there's a lot of obstacles and the shortcuts are especially tricky here, but once you do, it's just so much fun. The visuals are pretty cool, this is definitely a unique setting for a racetrack specifically, but hey, it makes for a pretty awesome track, so of course I'm putting it into the S tier. If I had to pick one track in the game that's vibes were immaculate, I'd have to go with Aqua Forest. This track is seriously incredible. I love the music, sounds like something straight out of a fantasy RPG. The visuals and theming of the track itself are top notch, and to top it all off, the track itself is a lot of fun to race on as well. There's plenty of different paths to take, shortcuts to find, and this track will really teach you how to get good at maneuvering water sections. From the moment I saw this track being showcased, I knew it'd be one of my favorites, and after playing it, I can say it most definitely is. I'm putting Aqua Forest in the S tier where it belongs. This track is peak. Eggman Expo is such a great idea for a track that I'm surprised this wasn't done before now. It's like if Eggman Land was an actual amusement park, not some hellscape pretending to be one. I don't love this track, but I do enjoy playing on it every so often. It just has a lot going on that makes it kinda chaotic and a bit tough to really master. People hate the water section on this track, and I'll say what I already have multiple times. Just slow down and you'll take that one turn just fine. It's not that hard. I really like how everything comes to life in lap 3, much like Wonder Museum, with the Egg Dragoon and Death Egg Robot becoming big stage hazards. The first lap music here is also super good. It's a remix of the SA1 Eggman theme. I'm going to put Eggman Expo into the B tier because it's a bit wild and crazy, but sometimes you want to play on a track like that, so I'm definitely glad that it's here. Time for the final Grand Prix. This one starts off with a banger, Kronos Island. This is my favorite track in the entire game. I love how it feels extremely skill-based, at least up until that final shortcut, but riding on the squid path is such a good idea, and driving through the open fields is really neat too. You even do the tower climb at one point. I think my only minor complaint with this track is that the visuals don't look nearly as good as they did in Frontiers, most notably with the lack of actual grass, and some of the colors look a bit too muddy, but the track layout itself and the music, oh my goodness the music, is some of the best in the entire game. Even just the Lap 1 Kronos Island remix is incredible, but of course that final lap I'm Here remix is perfection. This track is going into the S tier because, like I said, it's my favorite one in the whole game, and it's just so much fun. Next up is the North Star Islands. This track is pretty decent, although fairly basic and doesn't really do anything too crazy or unique. It's just driving around the same track for a bit, and that's it. But it is nice to have simpler tracks in the game. I'm going to put this one into the A tier because I think it's very similar to other tracks like Metal Harbor and Urban Canyon that do the whole simple and basic track thing, and North Star Islands is pretty much the purest form of that. The visuals feel a bit out of place though. I know Superstars was a colorful game, but they just look a bit weird compared to the other tracks in the game. However, it's still a good A tier track in my book. And for the final main track of the game, White Space, the Shadow Generations version. This track is just straight up taken right out of JakeCenZ, but hey, if it works, then it works. You get to drive through most of Whitespace from that game, so I think they made it work pretty good, and plus the final lap becoming the Doom version of Whitespace is a super cool idea. Really glad they were able to implement that into the track. Plus it allows you to fly past the Radical Highway and drive through the Chaos Island sections. The water section here is a bit weird, since there's quite a sharp turn that can catch you if you aren't paying attention, but it does make lap 1 feel a bit short, and I wish there were some more paths you could take in this one, considering Whitespace in JakeCenZ was an open zone area, but oh well. I'm gonna put Whitespace into the A tier because it's a really cool track, I just think it could have been a little bit better. And now for the first DLC track in Sonic Racing Crossworlds, which is Minecraft World. And I just gotta say, they did a pretty good job with this one. I like this track. It's so dynamic, going from the overworld to the nether, back to the overworld on lap 3, going underground, then going to the end, before finishing it out with a final stretch of the overworld, makes this one of the most hectic tracks in the entire game. There aren't too many shortcuts or different pathways to take in this one, but instead there's a bunch of obstacles like fire and cobwebs to avoid, which of course will let you take the lead if you manage to avoid them. The visuals are about what you'd expect, this is certainly a Minecraft world, but the music is so good. Lap 1 is a remix of Comforting Memories and Infinite Amethyst from Minecraft, and I've loved Infinite Amethyst ever since it came out, so I was super hyped to hear it remixed for this track. And of course Pigstep is remixed for the Nether, the Relic music disc is remixed for the final lap music, and the end has a remix from Minecraft Dungeons. Pretty crazy pull, but hey, it sounds great. Overall, it's a janky track for sure, and one with some strange shortcuts, but I'm happy with this track, so I'm putting it into the B tier. And for the final track of the video, the second DLC track, Bikini Bottom. I hate this track. Why does it look so bad? Minecraft World wasn't perfect, but you could at least tell they put in some effort, but here it's like they threw something together in only a day. The track is also just really not fun to play on, and is super janky and weird. There's a shortcut right after the Jellyfish Fields that is weirdly hard to hit, and I almost never go for it, because missing it sends you back extremely far. The track as a whole feels like a been there, done that already, so I just don't really understand why anyone would choose it over another track. Minecraft World made me set my expectations a bit too high, I guess, because I'm putting Bikini Bottom into the D tier. Hopefully some of the other DLC tracks will actually be great. Well, here's the final list. There really aren't that many tracks that I dislike in Sonic Racing Crossworlds, which just goes to show how good this game really is. And of course the tracks in S tier are all incredible, but what are some of your favorite tracks in Sonic Racing Crossworlds? Leave some comments down below, or make your own tier list with the one I linked in the description, and as usual, I'll see you next time.